we are now going to assemble the pencil, and before we do that, we're going to color all the components. So here you have your alignment pencil that you made a picture from, and we are simply going to select each part and color it to a different color. Now, some colors can be the same, but the way we change color is to select the part in the assembly and then to come up to where up here where it says what is this? This is the material specification. We have the appearance and we have the material. We're going to change the color right here. So, for example, this one I want to be, let's say I want this to be blue. I like that. So there's my case. And then I'll click over on the insert and I want that to be white. See if we have white. And you're going to do this for all the parts just by selecting them and then clicking a color. Okay, so go ahead and do that. So our parts are colored now, and what we're going to do is we're going to put them together to form the pencil. Now, there are two ways we can do this. I'm going to show you my favorite way to do it because to me it's easier, and then I'll show you the way you probably should do it, the way that most people place cylindrical parts together. So let's try my way first. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the insert into the case. Okay? So the insert goes into the case, and I'm going to constrain the axis of the insert with the axis of the case. And I'm going to do that with a make constraint. So I'm going to make constraint the axis of the insert and the axis of the case. And you can see that it goes inside of the case. I'm going to go ahead and say apply. And just so you can see what I've done, if I grab the insert now, I can slide it into and out of the case. I'm going to ground the case. I'm going to ground the case because I'm going to work off of the case, and I'm going to unground the cap so I can actually move it. Okay, now the cap should, there we go. Now, I don't just want this free floating in here. I want to be able to move it. I grounded the wrong thing. I grounded the insert. Let me unground that, and I want to ground the case. Here we go. All right. So I now have the case grounded, and I don't just want this free floating. I want, if I can, I want to constrain it in place somewhere. Now, I'm going to leave it like this for now because I want to put the other components on there. For example, I know that this goes inside of here. So I'm going to constrain now using my method. I'm going to constrain the axis of the, what do we call this thing? That is it's the stator. And I'm going to constrain that to the axis of the case. Make sure you click the axis. And there it is. I'll apply it. Now, this is located so that this is located right inside here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use the face of this hexagon, and I'm going to do a flush constraint with this face. Now, watch what happens here. I'm going to flush it, but I want it to go back a little bit further. So I'm going to use this offset here. I'm going to type in 0.1, and I can see that it went back inside. Now that's about where I want it to be. That's about how it actually works in the pencil. So I'll apply that. And you can see how I did that. I did a make constraint of the axis, and then I did a flush constraint of a face with an offset onto the case. Now I'm going to try something a little bit different with this ferrule. And this is the way that most people would do this. I'm going to do a constraint. Oops. I'm going to do a constraint, but I'm going to do what's called an insert constraint. And an insert constraint is this last one here. And when we do an insert constraint, we're going to insert this into some part. So I'm going to select, and you can see that it lets me select the axis, but it also lets me select a face at the same time it's selecting the axis. So I know that this insert, let me just move this out of the way here for a second. I know that this goes in here. Now, this insert goes into that stator. And then the top of this sits on the top of that insert. That's how it's constructed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain with an insert the axis of this ferrule and the inside face, which is right there. Okay? So I'm going to select the axis and that face, and I'm going to constrain it to this axis and that face right there. You see that? Now that's the insert command. Actually, that's pretty easy to use, isn't it? So now I've already got this particular part, and I know that it's going to sit right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and constrain this as well. I'm going to use a mate constraint now. I'm going to mate this face with this face right here. Nope, can't do that. I'll mate this edge with this face. You can mate edges and faces, that's no problem. There we go, and I'll apply it. Now you'll notice in all these parts, they're still able to rotate. Okay, I have not restricted the rotation. It's the same thing with the insert command. You see, it's hard to see that, but you can see it's rotating. See that? So either method, whether you use the insert command or you use the method that I'm using, which is the axis with the flush constraint. Let's go ahead and place this. We can also do an insert constraint with an offset. So let's try that. Let's go ahead and constrain this with the insert constraint, and we'll insert the lead and the edge of the lead with the insert and this face here. But now you can see that it's going the wrong way. I wanted this to be flush with this, so we're going to come up here and we're going to change it so that it's aligned. Right now it's opposed. We want it to be aligned, and you can see that it lines it up. But I want the lead sticking out a little bit, so we're going to change this offset to, say, 0.5. Now it went back into the pencil, didn't it? So we have to change that to a negative 0.5. There we go. So there's my lead. Is that going to give me room? Let's make it 0.75. Negative 0.75. I want it to stick out of the cap a little bit. Okay, we're going to apply that. And now let's go ahead and use the insert command. You know what? I kind of like the insert command. I might like it better than my method. Let's go ahead and use this axis here, and we're going to constrain it to this axis right here in that face. We want it to be opposed. This is aligned, this is opposed, and we'll apply it. And there we go. Oh, I forgot the spring. Shoot. Well, the spring goes inside, and again, with the spring, you're going to have to constrain the axis of the spring. Okay? But this is going to be a problem. Let me deal with the spring in a second. Let's go ahead and finish this off. Go ahead and finish your pencil, and you should have the whole thing constrained, and when you're done, it should look like an assembled pencil. And I'll be back in a minute, so go ahead and finish that up. You can see here that we have the pencil completed. It's completely assembled. It looks so good. I really like it. Now, we have the spring here. We cannot use the axis of the spring that's over here on the origin because it's in the wrong place. Okay, if I constrain the axis of that spring, which is there, to the pencil, it's going to be all off to the side. So what we have to do is we have to make the sketch visible for the spring. The sketch that we use to make the spring, we have to make that visible. So here's what we do. We double click on the spring, or we can double click on the word spring on the browser bar. Double click it. It's making a liar out of me. Double click it. There we go. And now the spring becomes the active, no, the insert. We'll go back there. Okay. The spring now is the active part, and you can see that we're in part mode. Remember, when you double click on a part in the assembly, you go into part mode. Now I'm going to come in to the coil, and here's the sketch that I used to make the spring. And if I zoom in on the spring, you can see that the sketch has a line that I can use to constrain to the rest of the pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and right click that and make it visible. I'm going to turn on the visibility temporarily. Then I'll finish the edit, and it gets me back into the assembly mode. Now, I want to put the spring in a very particular place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the case. So I'm going to right click the case. Now watch this. I'm going to come down here where it says suppress. Suppress means you're going to temporarily turn it off. So I'll click on it, and now look, it's gone. But you know what? I also need to temporarily suppress this insert. So I'm going to right-click, or the stator. I'm going to right-click the stator and suppress it. You'll notice over here in the browser bar, it puts a line through it. It's like it's not even there. Okay? I'm going to put the spring right here. This is where the spring sits. It sits right in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a constraint, and I'm going to use my method. I'm going to do a make constraint of the axis of the spring, which I made visible in my sketch, and the axis of the insert. There it is. Apply it. And then we can go ahead and just cheat a little bit. We'll just put this right here, and we are going to just leave it. Okay? We could use another constraint to leave it there, but we're just gonna leave it right there. It's not going to be a problem. Okay, so the spring is going to stay there, and now we can come back over here to the browser bar and unsuppress both the case and the insert, or the stator, and voila. Oh, the spring still has a sketch. You see that? We need to turn that off. So double click on the spring, go back to the sketch, and make it invisible. Right click, turn off the visibility, finish the edit. And there we go. This is kind of cool. If you click on the rotate button, click on rotate. Now, hold the shift key down and then grab it and get it started. And look, I can make it spin. So I'm kind of holding the shift key down and then holding the left mouse button down and giving it a little start and then letting go, and it spins in space. Woo! That's pretty cool. You gotta admit that's cool. All right. And voila, we're done with the regular pencil. Now, the next step is you're going to have to upload this. So I want you to position it just like you did before. Take a picture and upload it to Moodle, okay? And then you're going to start working on how you're going to modify this thing so that we can have 10 LEDs stored on the pencil. All right, good luck. Look forward to seeing your creations.